a 2-1 win for England. It was what we all needed after last week's disappointment. Let's get stuck into what actually happened during the game. I mean, I feel a little bit embarrassed because I was saying, Russo's not really done enough for me. Like, she's not really kind of, even when she's like off the ball, I'm not seeing a lot of the off the ball work. Obviously, you kind of gave her a bit more praise for that because you've been at the games and sort of seen it live. But, and then all of a sudden she pulls out this kind of like incredible performance. She's the physicality, the hold-up play, the goal. She's getting into the right spaces. She's asking the right questions of the goalkeeper. I mean, how good was she, Rach? What were your thoughts on Russo?
She was great again. I'm so glad she got the goal because she had a number of chances and I was a bit like, I don't want this to be another game where they flash by her. And she almost had a carbon copy of the goal earlier when a ball was sent in, I think it was from Leah Williamson, over to Bronze, who came in at the back post, laid it down to Russo. Brilliant header from her. She did everything right. But to be fair, Pauline Perry-Mannion came across goal really, really well.
Footwork,
made herself really big. Yeah, it was very much good goalkeeping because Russo did everything. She headed it into the ground, making it really difficult. And, so I'm glad she did get the goal in the end because she was working seriously hard. They were stuck to her in that box. So I thought she did a really, really good job. She played a part in the first goal as well. There seemed to be a lot of throw-ins to Russo, and it just demonstrates her hold-up play and her ability in the box with the ball close to her, with defenders close to her. She's very good at finding a way out of it. And she was the one who kind of laid that pass for him to kind of bully her way onto, to then lay it out to Georgia Stanway for that wonder strike. So, yeah, she played a big role yesterday.
And do you think there were still any problems in the game? Because it kind of felt like, obviously we did concede that penalty. I mean, do you think it was a penalty? It just seemed like Leah got her feet tangled up a little bit. It didn't seem very intentional. It felt like one of those like unfortunate mistakes where you just can't get yourself out of the way. Yeah,
I don't think there was anything really she could have done about it. I think the problem was the losing possession. I think England did that. They were a little bit sloppy in possession. And I think I'm surprised actually that Kaz and Wrighty were so full of praise for France, as you said, because I didn't think France looked brilliant in the first game or the second. They looked a bit leggy. They were poor in the Nations League final as well. And I think England were often the architects of their own downfall at times because they would lose possession in really good positions and the ball was pickpocketed in midfield and ended up back into the box. And what happened was, I can't remember who it was who had the ball, but she almost pulled it back and Leah Williamson's momentum then took her into her legs. And that's what caused the penalty. So it was a penalty, but it wasn't like, I don't think there was really very much she actually could have done about it. So, yeah, a shame. It made the last, 15, 20 minutes very nerve-wracking. Chloe, you know how much I hate this fannying around with the ball and playing in the corner. It does my head in, and I think there are times when you can get punished for that. And I think in the situation England are in, goals are important. You had players on the pitch who could score goals. They'd get into good positions and then go, actually, no, let's go play it in the corner and try and kill time. Oh, my Jesus. I thought they were going to concede. I really did. When Hannah Hampton made that save near the end, my heart.
But I actually agree with the kind of game management style. I mean, it looked like a game that could go either way at one point, and I did think, oh God, you know what, France are going to get the equaliser here. This is not good. Like that final 10 or 15 minutes was hairy AF. But I do think in those moments, like, you've got to take a gamble. It's either okay, you go and get that third goal, or actually you just bed in and kind of like hunker down. And I think actually that was probably the right choice in that way, because I think France was so quick on the counter attack, and I think England did so well to nullify that 100%. Because I think as soon as France got the ball, obviously they were so quick to progress, and I saw a lot of that in the first half, but we definitely saw a lot of that in the last 10 or 15 minutes. So sometimes, as long as you're keeping possession and they haven't got the ball, because I think as soon as you try to kind of make an effort, that's when the mistakes open up, and it only takes sort of them getting it back in possession, and just an absolute boofer to the other end of the pitch, and all of a sudden you're 2-2. So I actually appreciated the game management, to be honest.
I don't like it.
No, not a fan.
It's just my heart rate, it's just very stressful.
Well, you can calm down now.
When you're in the ground as well, and the whole, the stadium is obviously rooting for France, it just makes it even more stressful every time they go forward. You're like, Jesus, just score the goal.
I think one of the things that we also kind of pulled out was that obviously Serena had kind of made the same substitutions. She's made the same lineup by Hannah Hampton, but the same substitutions. And I kind of felt like actually there would have been a bit of an opportunity here, like we were saying before, to kind of introduce maybe Park, to kind of get Clinton, to kind of get other players involved in it. I appreciate it's a very high pressure situation. It's a must win game essentially, but do you feel a bit disappointed that some of those players didn't get a look in?
Yeah, a little bit. Like bringing Fran Kirby on the 89th minute or something. You're just a bit. I was surprised again that she brought on the same subs because, as I said, people tend to always bang on about she doesn't make enough rotation, blah, blah, blah. And I think there's a problem in that argument because it's not factually true all of the time. And I think we've seen that. Jesus, the World Cup, I know she had the record for making no changes in the Euros. She must have had the record for making the most like formation shifts in the World Cup. And I know a lot of that was down to injury. But like, we've seen England do both. We know they can do both. So I think after seeing them play so differently in Australia, you've kind of then come to expect them to say, well, if plan A isn't working, we'll move to plan B and that'll be effective. And actually, sometimes it's felt a little bit like it's plan A isn't working, we'll try plan A harder. Do you know, that kind of way? But, you know, as they said, they proved us wrong. They played pretty much the same tactics. But I do have to shout out, right, Georgia Stanway I thought struggled in the first match. Second match, she was playing much higher, much more impactful, getting into those opportunities in the box, getting the goal. She nearly scored a second goal, almost a carbon copy of the second goal. She was getting much higher up the pitch and influencing play. Thought she did really well. Thought Beth Mead struggled a little bit in terms of her touch, her passes. I thought England were a little bit, as I said, sloppy in possession, but the fact that they played so well in the first half and there's still things that could be better is good, right? It means they've got even more in the tank.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there was also that, you know, what we touched on again before was that over-reliance maybe on some of the kind of experienced players. And I just think there was an opportunity there to kind of like get, you know, younger players in a very intense, demanding situation, in a very highly pressured situation. But in a way that I think they would have been quite well supported. I mean, you can't say that Kelly coming on wasn't a good idea. I mean, you kind of look at the fact that, you know, she was a big part of the game management at the end. She was booked for time wasting at the end. I think that was a great shout. I think
she was the heroine in the Euros final with the time wasting.
Exactly that. And I think that's probably part of why she was brought on essentially. And Fran Kirby, again, I think, you know, she had moments of like progressing, but also like she wasn't afraid to just sort of like slow the game down and kind of like bring it to a halt a bit. And sometimes you need to take the sting out of the game, especially when you've got a team like France.
Well, throw one back at you then. You know, you liked the game management. Do you not feel then having players who know how to do that well are the right players to bring on in that moment then? Rather than, say, younger players who maybe haven't experienced, they've experienced game management on the biggest stage, in the biggest matches of their career, then on your argument, would you not think, okay, bring on those players who know how to do that and do that well?
Oh, you've tied me up here. Because I kind of want both. I kind of want like the intensity, and I want like kind of like creativity and the passion and the kind of like, you know, players getting like their first few minutes and kind of, I don't know, that just, it would have been really nice to kind of see that. But at the same time, I think, in those games where it is so hairy, sometimes you do just have to take this thing out and kind of like manage it and just get through to it. It might not be the sexiest game, but you've got the win. You know, the most important thing is that it keeps you still competitive in the group, and that's what they had to do. So I don't know, maybe depending on how things go with the Ireland game in July, there might be opportunities there if they happen to be doing well, but you never know with Ireland. I mean, every game is going to matter, and Ireland have been putting up an absolute fight against other opposition, so you kind of think, well, you know, even though we would suspect maybe there could be chances there, I'm not going to be, you can't guarantee it with Ireland because they do look ridiculous. They're just like the disruptors, I think, of this group, like, absolutely. So yeah, but one person who did get their chance, Hannah Hampton, I think, I mean, I kind of feel a little bit lost for words because like the saves, like we spoke so highly of her for the last game. It's not easy, like when someone comes off and, you know, Mary Eppes coming off in the first 5 minutes, being asked to jump into that position. You know, Mary Eppes doesn't often get injured. She doesn't often come up. She doesn't get red carded. She's not...
Especially so early in a game.
So early. Like, you wouldn't have even... Hannah Hampton on the bench wouldn't have even had... So every, like, 10 or 15 minutes, your strength and conditioning coach on the bench will say, go and have a warm-up, whatever. She wouldn't have even got to the first warm-up. So she would have still been literally fresh from the changing room and the team talk, whatever it is, straight onto the bench. And then, really, goalkeepers don't really warm up until, like, 15, 20 minutes into the game. And then they might do the same in the second half. But to come on and have that performance in that first game against France, and then to come on and do it again, and to be a big reason in getting that win, had it not been for that save that she made in the 87th minute. I mean, it was about a foot away from her, the ball. The reaction time was absolutely minimal, and her footwork and the change of direction and tipping it round the post was the absolute reason that we managed to secure that win and not walk away with that point. Absolutely,
she was
incredible.
going right and she got down left so quickly.
That was absolutely disgusting. But do we think now that, given her performances in those 2 games, really highly pressurised games, she cemented her position in number 2? As much as I, did say I would love to see Kiara Keating, make a debut at some point very, very soon, I do think Hannah Hampton has... I mean, it's hard to argue with her being the sort of first choice at the moment while Mary's out.
I think she's been number 2 for a while, to be honest. I remember seeing her make her debut, I think it was the Arnold Clark Cup. And I think she has been number 2 for a while. I think she overtook Ellie Roebuck at one point. But yeah, I think you can be pretty confident that Hannah Hampton's your number 2. And what a play. I mean, what a trio of keepers to have in those moments. And it kind of reminds me of the 2015 World Cup quarterfinals, England playing Canada in Vancouver, 50,000 pretty much just Canadians. And Karen Bardsley gets injured in the first half. And I don't know if you remember, they were playing on those kind of 3G pitches, and one of the little rubber bits got into her eye. So she she was really struggling. And Siobhan Chamberlain had to come on in the first half in a quarterfinal against the home team. What a big moment. And it's those big moments really, I guess you tell me, they must stand to you then, even when you're a number 2, knowing that if you get called up on, if you can do it in big games, crunch games. I appreciate these 2 games aren't the same as a quarterfinal of a World Cup, but it must give you some confidence to know I can step in during that kind of big crunch moment.
I think I've had experiences of it going really, really well, and I've had experiences of it going absolutely terribly. And I think it's a really difficult one, because when it goes really, really well, you do build confidence. You do feel like, actually, I'm ready. I should be fighting for that number 1 spot. This is my time to kind of really accelerate that and cement my position. At the same time, the downside is that it doesn't go to plan, obviously. And I think that's when it's a dangerous situation and you don't feel like actually you're prepared or that you're ready enough, or... I don't know, and you do suffer from a lack of confidence. I've definitely had that, where I've actually not wanted to go on. I've not wanted to play, because I was like, if I make the same mistakes again, I think I'll quit football. Because it's just so demoralising. But credit to the keepers, because absolutely. Hannah Hampton's been incredible stepping in for Mary Earps, and it's clear that she is very, very ready and very, very capable of dealing with that situation, and that should give the team a lot of confidence should we make it to the Euros, that there are incredible second choice keepers there. If Mary Earps takes the number 1 spot for the Euros all day, I need to caveat that.
Even defenders, it gives you confidence. There's not that kind of, oh God, we're going to have, oh God, she's coming on, shit, we're going to need to tighten up more, or anything like that. It gives you that level of confidence knowing you've got such quality. And I think as well, I feel like all 3 goalkeepers have a bit of a swagger about them. And I think you need a little bit of arrogance as a goalkeeper. You need to so back yourself, because, your mistakes are under a magnifying glass. And I quite like that about them. They all seem to have a bit of confidence and swagger about them, which I love. So I'd say that really settles the team as well, should those moments crop up.
Well, for the games in July, is there any players that you feel like you'd like to see more of if Serena kind of adopts a little bit more squad rotation that she's done in the last 2 games? Are there sort of any players that you're dying to get some minutes out of?
Well, first of all, I do think we missed Lauren James. I think England missed that creativity in the middle. That kind of more direct play, those balls through the middle, splitting defences, that kind of thing. I think she was missed. But I'd love to see, as we've said, Park, Clinton. I'd like to see Alex Greenwood get some minutes. I think she deserves it after the season she's had. And even if we got an Aggie Beaver-Jones, if she got a run out, England don't have that many number 9 options at the moment. I think Russo's been brilliant, but also you need to know you've got players who can come on and score goals. We've seen what Aggie Beaver-Jones can do when she comes off the bench for Chelsea.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see what she can do for England. And maybe she'll get that opportunity in one of those games. We shall see. What about you? I've probably named some of the key ones.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'd like to, I think it's a bit of a long shot for the games in July, but I would like to see maybe Jess Naz, just get a cheeky couple of minutes maybe at the end if we're doing well in a couple of the games, we've secured a win, a 2-3 advantage, and we're sort of in the 90, first, second minute or something. I would like to see that. Just from a personal perspective more than anything else, but I do think maybe it's a little bit too early for the debut for her.